I like this guy a lot, very much. Now, I became aware of him with Hormozy. I became aware of him when I was watching, like, I think he did like this, I've been like kind of investigating AI, like artificial intelligence, and he had a really great breakdown of AI. But then I came across Alex Hormozy. I came across Alex as a result of looking for AI, but this I thought was fantastic because I watched the whole thing of this and I wanted to chop this out, but he did me the favor of doing it. Alex, if you're watching this, I would love to have a conversation with you. I don't think Alex is necessarily red pill, but what he's about to say here to these guys, I 100% endorse, and it fits in with today's show pretty well. So let me keep going.
Age 32, and as a result of that, we had very different views and perspectives on money and happiness. And I was recently interviewed in a 2-hour-long podcast with Graham Stephan, and he asked questions about it. And from what I understand, a lot of people shared and talked about this particular section of the podcast. And so we chose to cut this out and give it to you in the next 11 minutes. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Alex Hormozy. I own acquisition.com. It's a portfolio of companies. That portfolio does about $85 million a year, and I have nothing to sell you. All right, so enjoy the video. Welcome to Mosey Nation, and I'll see you on the other side. Like, a lot of people make statements like, they're like isms, like this is this way. Like, I have this thought and it is. And you're like, and I've just accepted that, like, I'm always going to have this. Like, I would just never speak that over yourself just right off the bat, because like, you're just saying, I'm never going to get over this thing. Like the statement you said earlier about like, at the end of the day, I just want to be happy. Like, when you admit that you just want to be happy, then what happens is you create a deficit between your current reality and happiness, which means that it doesn't matter what happens because there will always be happiness that is outside of yourself. Does that make sense?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, but I would consider myself.
Okay, so don't talk shit about this guy, because the fat guy who's the producer, he actually makes some pretty good points.
No,
he didn't get that at all.
No, Alex, I got it because I'm like looking at Jack, like, oh man.
But I thought, okay, so here's my interpretation of it. If I'm telling myself that I just want to be happy, then I will never be happy.
Correct.
That's what you're saying. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
Right.
But I'm telling you right now that
So I don't forget the guy's name who's the producer here. Somebody will give this to me, but what he said, like, at first I thought maybe he's getting into like the observer effect, like observing a process, change the process. If I tell myself I'm going to be happy, if I'm observing the process of me becoming happy, then I'll never be that way. I get it.
I am happy now.
Good.
So, but okay. Wait, Graham, do you still think I don't understand that?
So like deficits occur when we speak desires, right? And so I love this statement. A desire is a contract we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we get what we want. And so whenever we state a desire, like I want this amount of money, I want whatever, you literally sign a contract that says like, I won't be unhappy until that happens, right?
Okay. Very important. This fucking sums everything up with Matt, with Jordan Peterson, everything else. When I started this show and we're talking about, it's first thing in my book, the desire dynamic. You cannot negotiate desire. When people hear that, they think, oh, Roll's talking about marriage counseling, right? Oh, chore play, right? What Jordan Peterson was talking about. You've got to sit down and negotiate sexy time with your wife if you're not fucking enough, right? No. What did he just say? When you are negotiating that, whether it's with yourself, you're negotiating happiness. I won't be happy until I get to this particular thing. That is the essence of the reason why people are discontent. Like, they don't want to accept the fact that the human condition is discontent. And the way to get happy is not an end result. It is the process itself. And that's kind of what he's getting at here.
And so like I had this thing earlier on where I was like, I want to have meaning. I want to have great meaning in my life. And I was talking to a guy who made a lot more money than me, because I asked him, I said, how do you create and destroy meaning in your work? That was the question I asked him on a podcast. And he was like, why do you think life needs to be meaningful? And it was the same exact thing as.
Yes. See, ask the right fucking questions. Why is it that you think, Matt Walsh, that getting married is going to give your life meaning? Why? Why do you think that will, like, once you get married and you get in that state like me, then you'll be happy. But happiness is not a sustainable, contented state. Human beings are discontent, and that's a good fucking thing. I'm about to prove it to you here in a second. I'm gonna let him continue the rest of this thought.
It's the happiness versus like the meaning thing, where it's like, I say life has to be meaningful, and therefore everything that I'm doing, like I create this expectation of life. Whereas if life just is, it just is. And it's
because you're negotiating genuine desire with yourself.
The only way that you can actually be there is just pure acceptance, right? Which is why like the whole like shoulds of like we should work, we should have balance, we should X. It's like I believe marriage is a compromise. Like these are just statements of belief that are casting expectations out in the world that are just bound to be untrue at some point and then create dissonance. So it's like I believe marriage is marriage, and I believe
right. Thank you, Rolo. How do you have a successful marriage? I just do it. I just do it. How are you happy in your marriage? Because I'm doing it. Not because it's like some state. Oh, I don't know how I can be contented. I'm not. That's the you want to know how I have a successful marriage? I'm never content. I'm always fucking hungry. And I've accepted that as my operative state. I just deal with discontent creatively and constructively. I don't sit here and wallow in it. That's where you get black pill doomers. That's where you get the MGTOWs that came at Matt Walsh. Because most of those guys are just sitting there wallowing. Oh, well, you know, why would you get married? You're leading guys to the slaughterhouse. And they're right, but the prescription is wrong. Why am I not happy? Because you're not fucking doing anything. That's
my marriage is my marriage, and I believe your marriage is your marriage. And like, I believe that I can work 24 hours a day if I want to. And that is all, period. Not, and it's bad or, and it's good. And there's no judgment on it. It just is. And so like, if I,
you're goddamn right.
If I get dopamine secreted in my brain when I start working, cool. Like, and I will optimize for dopamine. And if I die, I know that in 1,000 generations, nothing I do anyways is going to matter.
Okay. Everything that I talked about prior to this is all summed up right here. We just talked about education, right? Okay. Well, education is doing. I need that, and I need that database to do stuff, right? To keep going. Well, I got my bachelor's degree. Okay, what's next? My master's degree. What's next? My doctorate. What's next? I don't know. Is there something else? But it's not about the having, it's about the doing.
So who cares? Like, that's like the
and then again, as I was saying before, all men are equal when they're, thank you, Lemmy Killen. All men are equal when their memory fades, right?
The opening thing in my book is like, there are no rules. Like, we live in this shoulds and have tos and like happiness. Everyone talks about it. And it's just like, everyone is unhappy because they say they want to be happy rather than being like, accepting like, fuck happiness. Like, I just am, period. And then like, I don't need to judge the am. It just is.
What do you say to that?
I don't know.
I don't know how old these guys are, but like, it's like, I'm crazy about like freaking Alex here, because it's like, he articulates exactly what I've said in the past, but like, he's not red pill, but like, I think his take on this, when I talk about contentment and discontentment, that has real red pill intersexual dynamics applications for sure, but it also has larger life dynamic applications too.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because so one thing I noticed is if you're like, I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
Does that mean, Alex, that you think that at some point that will change for you or something, or you live with fear that will change?
I think you guys maybe are taking what I'm saying the wrong way. I mean, like Alex is saying, everybody has different beliefs, and there's no one rule fits all to everybody. And so if I say
actually there is, but again, that's like, I don't know if he's going there. Maybe he's not, but it's like that my truth versus the truth. Nobody has, everybody lives their truth. My way is not your way. Yeah, but that's not empirical. That's not objective.
I want to be happy. That doesn't make me wrong. Like, if I want to live my life that way, that's perfectly fine. But the thing that what Jack is saying is, no, I am like happy. For me, I like to make like a conscious effort to work towards that. And Alex can live his life like life is life. My marriage is my marriage. And it works for him, and that generates happiness, whether he's like thinking about it.
But it doesn't have to generate happiness. That's the point.
Yes, that's the point. Yes.
Because it makes it like, not because. It's like when people say like, hey, work, set these goals and like the rest will take care of itself. It still makes the rest taking care of itself the reason that you're doing it, which means that it's actually not getting around it. When people are like, you got to be process driven. If you're like, if we focus on the process, the goals take care of themselves. It still means that the goals are important. So like, you have to, if you want to make.
You remember when people like tell you like, especially when it comes to game, you've probably heard this in game, like a pickup artist, right? Game. It's like, don't be, or be outcome independent. I think that's real. I think that has more applications than just like getting laid, right? You need to be outcome independent. You need to be involved in the process, being the doing. That's why he says is, right? And that's why I try to stress this. I try to do this with well, pretty much everybody who's ever done an interview with me. And if you want to debate me, this will be the first thing out of my fucking mouth. I'm not interested in what you think should be. I'm interested in what is. I want to put that out because what is equips me so I can form best practices. What I think is how I should use this. What is the data I need to use to affect to make me powerful. And what is power? Power is not crushing someone else. It is about the level and the degree of control you have over your own life. That's what real power is. Sometimes it involves crushing other people, yes. But really, fundamentally, power is about the degree and the degree and the direction that you have over your own life. You want to know why black pill doomers and MGTOW guys and people who have the information, they're equipped with the knowledge of the divorce rate, of what's going on Tinder, right? They have this knowledge of intersexual dynamics, courtesy of me or whoever else, and they see this. And then their best practice is to go their own way. Their best practice for them is to be black pill doomers and commiserate with people in chat rooms, right? That's what they think is the best practice. I disagree with that. But the reason why they don't like Matt Walsh is because he's fundamentally trying to take away their power, their ability to control, or other people for that matter, to control the direction of their life by convincing them that what his like pie in the sky Disney 20th century ideal of what will make them permanently happy, which is bullshit, because happiness is not an end state. It is a process, as we were talking about here. To be happy is not to get to the point of happiness. It's the process of getting there in the first place. How do I know that? Well, let me give you some empirical data here so that I can give you a good idea of what I'm talking about. I'm putting him back in because this is such a great segment here. However, let's quote my good friend Rob Henderson, who is also a good friend of Hafiz too, right? He was quoting a book. I want to say this is I forget the name of the book that he was doing here, but anyways, quoting evolutionary psychology. All organisms are shaped to behave in ways that increase fitness, even if that decreases health and happiness. Our emotions benefit our genes far more than they do us. Okay. Excuse me. All organisms are shaped to behave in ways that even if they don't benefit us. Did you ever desperately want to have sex with someone, even though you knew that they could lead to disaster? Most people have do they? With sometimes dire consequences. Then there are the rest of our desires and the inevitable suffering caused because they cannot be fulfilled. We want so badly to be important, rich, loved, admired, attractive, and powerful. For what? The good feelings from our succeeding are just about balanced by the bad feelings from failure. Our emotions benefit our genes far more than they do us. That's number one. Did I catch the rest of this here? Oh, that's actually from the full read of that. Okay, now here's number two. All right. Again, happiness as a proximate goal. Now, I've explained to you proximate versus ultimate goals. Human emotions evolve because they generally work to confer evolutionary benefits to us, helping us to ultimately increase the likelihood of survival or reproductive capacities. Happiness is not an end goal. It is a means to an end. So here we go here. From an evolutionary perspective, oh, wait, no, that's the wrong one. Here it is. This is the first one. Happiness is a proximate goal, not an ultimate goal. What's the difference? Okay, so if sex is, let's see, if I'm in a club and I see a girl and I really want to bang that chick, like when I met my wife, right? I saw her in the club. Yes, we met in a club. And I'm like, damn, I want to tap that ass. That's my proximate goal. My proximate goal was get her into bed. I really want to experience sex with her. The ultimate goal The latent purpose of that desire to tap that ass is to reproduce. That's the ultimate goal. The proximate goal is getting to that point. So when we talk about happiness as only a proximate goal, it's the process, not the actual end state, the ultimate goal. From an evolutionary perspective, human emotions evolved as they have been, or as they have, because they generally confer or work to confer evolutionary benefits to us, helping to ultimately increase the likelihood of survival or reproductive capacities. Okay. Now he quotes who this study is by. Just as anxiety evolved to help motivate behaviors, happiness has also evolved to help motivate adaptive behaviors. If you look at the things that make people happy, you can quickly see that they generally map onto outcomes that would have, on average, led to increased probabilities of survival or reproduction for our ancestors. Here is a short list: food, sex, engaging in fun times with friends, success in social contexts, and task completion. The broad strokes we can easily see how these kinds of outcomes not only have the capacity to lead to happiness, but also have clear benefits from an evolutionary perspective. The evolutionary take on happiness then is essentially this: happiness is an affective state that motivates us to engage in actions that are likely to lead to outcomes that would, on average, lead to increases in the likelihood of survival or reproduction. In evolutionary parlance, we would say that happiness is a proximate outcome. It matters and it's nice, but it's not an ultimate evolutionary outcome. So from an evolutionary perspective, ultimate outcomes pertain to outcomes that bear on increases in the likelihood of survival and reproduction. Thus, we may be thrilled to have a piece of chocolate cake on the table in front of us at a birthday party, but that momentary happiness is not an end goal itself. That's what Alex is getting at here. I don't know if he's ever read this stuff before. Maybe he has, but that's really, I think, the crux of what he's talking about here. The momentary happiness is not an end goal itself. We evolve to be happy when presented with rich food offerings, because our ancestors, who were motivated to find rich foods, were more likely to eat and thus survive and reproduce. Happiness, then, like anxiety, is an affective state with the primary evolved function of motivating us to engage in behaviors that would have led to evolutionarily adaptive outcomes under ancestral conditions. Here it is, the money shot. Happiness is not an end goal. It is a means to an end. This right there, that one short sentence, is why Matt Walsh fails. It is why Destiny fails. It is why Hafiz fails. It is why Pearl fails. It is why Adam fails. It is why Jedediah fails. It is why fucking so many people, every feminist, every guy who says you'll live a happy life if you do this. No, you're selling the ultimate goal and the ultimate state, the ultimate goal rather than the proximate goal. Proximate goal. Happiness is proximate. It is not ultimate. You will not be happy. The human condition is discontent. And so when I talk about discontent, I'm like, oh, what's happy? Well, happiness to me anyways, maybe not to you, but happiness is a state of contentment. That's temporary at best. I got to this point. It feels good. This is awesome. Now I got stats, but there's always something else. And that's a good fucking thing. There's nothing wrong with being discontent. There's something wrong with solving that discontent by destructive means, by manipulative means, by fucking other people, by screwing yourself. Yes, there are two ways to deal with discontent: creatively and destructively. Unfortunately, most people opt for destruction. If you can be creative, if you can be driven, as Alex Hormozi was talking about here, if that can be you, you can then perhaps by being in the act of things that bring you happiness, rather than having this idea of, oh, when I get this, I'll be happy. When I get married, I'll be happy. When I get to my master's degree, I'll be happy. When I get this job, I'll be happy. When I meet the love of my life, I'll be happy. No, it's the doing and the being with that person. It's the doing that makes you happy. It's not an end state. But you know what is fucking marketable like nothing else? The idea of sustainable contentment. You want to make $1 million, sell, what is it? Feed fear and sell security, because the security represents contentment, safety, security. You're protected. That's why Matt fails. That's why Hafiz fails. That's why anyone who's thinking, or they're philosophically, I don't even say their personal operative state is emotionalism, you will always fail, because you think that the pie in the sky is somewhere else. You'll be happy when you get to this. What did Matt Walsh say? Well, you'll be dead at the end, and at the end of the day, you won't be content, and you'll die alone. The myth of the lonely old man. You'll die unhappy. No, who fucking cares at this point, right? Because I would rather die in a flaming car. I would rather roll my fucking snowmobile. God, please don't let me do this, Lord. I would rather set my snowmobile on fire again and roll it over on me and die that way than die in an assisted living facility. If I got to choose the way I go, like put me on the Viking long ship and send a flaming arrow into it, man. Let's go. Death or glory. I would much rather go out that way than slobbering all over myself, half conscious in some assisted living facility during the time of COVID, right? Yes. Much better way to go out. Oh, you won't have your friends and family around you. Yeah, you're probably not going to anyways. However, I would rather be happy and productive and have that deal with my discontent creatively for the rest of my life and go that way. And maybe marriage is the way to do that. And maybe it's not. But the premise of happiness is fundamentally flawed when you're talking to guys like Hafiz, like Destiny, like Ruslan, like fucking insert the name. Anybody who tells you this was the way to contentment and happiness is selling you something.
Transition from like a process-driven life, which is like I'm doing these things to do them, period, then so that I can be happy, so that I can have a good marriage, so that I can have a meaningful life has to disappear from the equation. It has to be I do them, period, not because.
I do them.
I do them.
But then it goes back the other way. Like, but why? Because you say so. Like,
because you want to, right?
Like, if you want to ascribe a meaning to why you're doing something, you can do it for whatever reason.
Wow.
See, there you go. Got that? Now he doesn't understand this. He's picking the heat like this. This is like groundbreaking shit for him. But this is pretty much the same thing that myself and Ryan Stone. Like, would you rather be happy or would you rather be right? The answer should always be I'd rather be right, because happiness is a transitory state. You can't just be happy. That's a trick question, really, because you're never going to be happy like in a sustainable state. Essentially, what they're asking is like, would you rather stick your head in the sand and is ignorance bliss, or is knowledge like power? No, knowledge is leverage. Sorry.
This is deep.
So Alex,
I mean, this is what I spend a lot of my time thinking of, because I have nothing else to do. And this is what my last year was like trying to figure out like why I didn't have, like, I felt the exact same way while I had nothing as to where I have now. I feel the same. Like people were like, man, it was cool when the money hit my account. I felt nothing. Like truly, like not even like the 2-day high, like it was irrelevant.
How did you learn all of this? Was this through speaking with other people who've been there before you?
Thinking, I mean, my closest friend is a philosopher, and I use that in terms of like the actual meaning of the word philosopher. So like phile, to love, and then sophos is wisdom or knowledge. So like he's a lover of knowledge, lover of wisdom. And like we talk every week. It's like the only standing meeting that I have is we talk for like 2 hours and we just talk about life. And he's one of these guys who like lives in a cave. And it's like, he got his PhD when he was 20, like just a very brilliant guy. And so he and I just talk about things. You know,
you should share his contact information. Look for some guests on the podcast.
Oh, I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, if you like, Dr. Cashew is brilliant. He's the smartest human that I know in terms of like brilliance and their ability to communicate it in a simple way. And so he helped me get over a lot of the things that I used to struggle with, and a lot of it was just like the language that we use matters a lot, because like how we say things is how we think things. And so like what I was saying earlier, Alex, and this is not like a slight. I'm just saying, like, when I hear anyone talk, like on my team or customers or whatever, it's like people talk so many things over themselves, and they're like, I don't know why I'm not successful. And it's like, well, define success, and why are you not? And then what are the, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to do this to be, like, there's so many chains that they put on themselves that it becomes very difficult to live. And so, like, I spent a long time trying to not do that. And it was just because, like, I was unhappy and I didn't like being unhappy. And then I stopped judging myself for being unhappy. And then I stopped thinking about it altogether. And so I think that, like, I'll give you a really real example for this. So one of the things that I'm vehemently opposed, and I'm like, no one give Graham flack, you can give it to me. And like, this is coming from a family who like had alcoholics and drug addicts and things like that. Like, I really don't like the Alcoholics Anonymous concept of every morning waking up and saying, I am an alcoholic, hi, you know, whatever. And then they go into their meetings, because what it does is it puts it at the forefront of their mind, and they literally label themselves every morning as having this problem. When somebody who's not an alcoholic just doesn't think about it. They don't think, I'm an alcoholic, I have to fight not drinking every day. They just don't think about it. And so I think to the same degree that like living a meaningful life is not.
Yeah, hold on real quick. I'll let him continue here, but I like what he just said here, because as a guy who has not, I haven't had a drink in like 5 years. I can't even remember like when I stopped. It was right before I started. Okay, so it would have been 5 years, because I stopped drinking right before I started writing the 4th book. Now, again, haven't had a DUI, never been to an AA meeting, didn't have a problem with it. I've worked in alcohol for God knows how long. And I realized that I was not going to be able to focus and put the effort and energy and the solitary concentration on that book that I needed to, if I was recovering every fucking Saturday or Sunday, like hungover, because I was like out partying and having a good time. Right. So I was like, I made it. So this is what I told myself. This is how I made the decision. Right. I was like, okay, I'm not going to drink until the book is done. And it took me 3 years to do the book. So like there was 3 years right there. But I thought, okay, well, after the book is published, then that's when I'll get a vodka tonic, right? Whatever. I'll get a Greyhound, like a salty dog. I will, then that's when I'll drink. Right. And then I published the book, and I'm like, I like where I'm at right now. And I hadn't thought about drinking. I wasn't thinking about it. I never looked in my, when I never had to like make a really hard, concentrated effort to not drink. I just did what I did. My focus was elsewhere. My focus was making me happy at that time, was being able to focus on the book, but actually the writing of the book makes me happy. When I am writing, I'm fucking great. Now, when you get into a flow state, like the zone, like I've heard pickup artists talk about this too. They get into a zone, they get into a flow state, right? It took them a while to figure out how to do that, because it's a skill like anything else. But like when you're an artist, when you're a writer, when you're a musician, probably when you're a coder, I would assume too, whatever like requires like your single solitary, concentration and effort and focus on one thing, you'll get into what's called the flow state. And there's a lot of research that's been done on flow states, right? Like you're in the zone, right? Athletes are in the zone, right? You're at peak performance, and you don't even think about the performance, you just do. It's kind of like, I know it sounds really zen and fucking fortune cookie, but it's like, wax on, wax off. Karate without knowing karate, right? Your shit, your like I've been asked this before when I've done with Trial of Ascension or whatever. If I do some very, we do some very complex music. We're a progressive metal band, and we do some very complex like time changes. And for me, it took a long time to recondition my way. And I had to become a fundamentally different musician as a result of joining the band. But I made a decision that I wanted to do this. An event, like probably within the first like 2 or 3 weeks, I was just grinding my teeth. I was like, fuck, what am I doing, man? This is not me. But then it started to click, and I get into flow state, and I started doing this, and I was practicing, and I dedicated myself to it, and I was involved in the process. And the process started feeling good. To create, to me anyways, is a way of, dealing with discontent, because I would fuck up. Like, oh man, I blew that line. I fucked up this part. Even if they didn't hear it, I would hear it. And I would go, oh, I screwed up. Right. But once you get to that point where you're doing, and you're in the flow state, or you're in the zone, and you feel good about what the fuck you're doing, then that's when true, that's, by the way, that's where true learning comes. It's not just rote memorization. That's where you learn something for real. Like it gets, like you internalize it. When people ask me like, Rollo, how do I become the game, right? How do I internalize game? How do I get to inner game? Inner game, I think is kind of bullshit, but I do think you can internalize game to the point where it becomes second nature and you learn how to play the song that is game, right? So I've had people ask me this. They go like, Rollo, you're on stage, man. You're so talented, or CJ is so talented, or these guys are so great. And I go, yeah, hey, it's because of practice. No, man, it's this natural God-given talent. What's your secret? Practice. It must be because you like grew up in the metal era, and for 14 years old you picked up the guitar. No, it's a lot of fucking practice, because that's the process. And so when I'm get up on stage and I'm playing these things, I make it look easy. CJ makes it look fucking, he makes me look bad. Like he's like, fuck, I don't know if you know what Tim Henson is from Polyphia, but I would put CJ up there with Tim Henson. He would probably like blush at that, but I would, because he makes it look easy. And so when you're up there, you don't realize the hard work and the practice and everything that went behind all of that. But when you get in that flow state and it sounds good and it's like, it feels like surfing, I guess is probably the best way. You're like, there's a wave behind you that's pushing you along. That makes me happy. It's in the doing. And when the show's over, that feeling's over. So you know why why musicians really get addicted to performing and doing all this other stuff or whatever. And it's not just that, like even athletes. You want to know why Tom Brady doesn't want to quit? Because it feels fucking good to be Tom Brady. It feels good to throw touchdowns, man. That's what he's happiest when he's, out there in a fucking, I formation. Yeah. Why did Brett Favre not retire until he did? Because that's what makes him happy. And it's hard to think of doing something different, right?